Whether art imitates life or the other way around, one thing for sure is those who control the stories control the culture. And for far too long when it comes to film and television, women have been systemically aged out and virtually erased from the stories that are told. This is a podcast of stories and conversations about real women to expand the limited narratives we're told and to explore how the ways women are portrayed or not portrayed in film and television as they age influences the way women are seen in our society. Welcome to There's More to Our Story. I'm Alica Gallagher, your host. Hi everyone, it's Alica Gallagher, host of There's More to Our Story, and I am here with a solo episode today. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the last couple of weeks since we've launched the podcast and share with you some of the things that I discovered along the way, some of the obstacles that we encountered and I personally had to overcome mostly. Most of the obstacles were my own. And I just wanted to give a little bit of information about what the experience has been from me. I thought maybe some of what I experienced and what I had to navigate and overcome might resonate with some people. It might be familiar with other people who struggle with some of the same things. So this is just me. There'll be more interviews and conversations to come, but this one I just wanted to share with you some of the things that have happened along the way. So the podcast has been up now for about 4 weeks. We have 4 episodes. I hope you've had an opportunity to listen to the conversations I had with my dear friends Marianne Alda and Eleni Kalakos, great mentors in my life and inspirational women in my life. And I love those conversations. So I hope you got as much out of listening to them as I got from having those conversations. The funny story about Marianne's, in many ways, Marianne is why the thing got up in the first place. I will say two people I will say really propelled this thing forward. Brian, my producer, Brian Richards, came into my life just before the whole thing launched, actually. We met just a couple of weeks before. He was introduced to me by a friend, and it was a godsend. I mean, he just showed up and it was a godsend. So he'll be listening to this after the fact. And Brian, thank you. Thank you for being part of this and wanting to, agreeing to be part of it and to help me, because so much of this wouldn't even exist without your help. So thank you. And the second part was Marianne. I was talking to Marianne and telling her, I had been preparing this idea, this podcast thing for months, and yet I hadn't recorded an episode yet. And she said, "What's the problem? What's the holdup?" And mostly it was just fear. It was just, I got to that block. I couldn't overcome that fear of actually putting it out there. It was interesting. It just was something that surprised me. I just couldn't, I got stuck, and she kicked my ass, literally kicked my ass, and just said, all right, well, let's just do it. Let's just record the first episode. Just get it on the books. Let's just get it on the calendar and do it. And we did. We opened up our calendars. We picked a couple of dates. Brian was available and we recorded it. And it was the best thing that could have happened because it got me out of my head. It got me into action mode and away from preparation mode, which I am so grateful, because I also love the conversation. And, the actual doing the conversations and the interviewing and the talking part is actually pretty easy for me. I enjoy conversation, as you will learn more about me. As you listen to future episodes, I like conversations. I like to talk, and it has been something that people have told me that I talk a lot. So hosting a podcast seems to be the perfect perfect scenario for me. It is very well suited because I like conversations. I love people. I am fascinated by people. I am curious. I enjoy conversation and digging into all sorts of topics and exploring things. And I just am very curious. So I enjoy that. So yes, I think this podcast thing may be very well suited for me. But um, yeah, we just jumped in and there it was. It was up. We recorded the first episode and it gave me the courage to reach out to Elaney. We got it on the books and we jumped in and recorded those episodes. So we got them up, and what happened next was really interesting because I had a very hard time telling anybody about it, which was very surprising for me. It was something that I didn't anticipate. A couple of other things that had happened along the way, and I thought I would just share. When I recorded my first intro episode, that was just the brief one talking about what I wanted to do and getting ready to launch it. That all happened before the horrific news about Ukraine. That happened after that I recorded that, and we were just getting ready to launch it right at the same time the news blew up and that whole thing, we started seeing it. And I struggled with it a lot. I had to overcome that sense of, how can I do this? How can I put this out there? Who am I to put this out? This is so meaningless compared to what's going on in the world. And I really struggled with that. I had a lot of guilt that I had to overcome, a lot of sense of this just seems so small and meaningless and ridiculous. Who's going to want to listen to this? There's so much more serious things happening, and this is just frivolous. So finding that balance during these really challenging times was something that I had to work through. And I know other people are struggling with this, not just me. But that was one thing that encountered right at the very beginning with that first episode that we launched. And then, I was listening to the episode with Elaney. We had our conversation and then we were preparing it. So I was re-listening to the conversation after the fact. And she said something. I had said to her in that conversation, who controls the story controls the culture. And she said, yes, I'd like to add to that. Who controls the stories in your head controls you. Now, I got to tell you, when she first said it to me in conversation, it was like, yeah, right, of course. But in the context of what had been happening the 3 weeks since the podcast was up, it had a different meaning to me at that time, because the stories that I was navigating in my head really surprised me. I had to absolutely work through those stories and shift the stories in my head, because I was really struggling with the, who do you think you are? Oh boy, did that rear its ugly head, that one. And also self-promotion. The podcast had been up and live and launched for almost 3 weeks before I even told my family it was up. I had told very few people, but I hadn't even told my family. It was up for about 3 weeks. And that surprised me, I have to tell you. Self-promotion, finding a way to share about this had turned into be a much more challenging thing to overcome than I expected. I guess it was the, tooting your own horn thing just felt so unnatural, very vulnerable. And I didn't expect it to be so difficult. There were some technical things that I was still having to fix and overcome. And at the beginning, some of it was that. But what I discovered was that was just an excuse, a procrastination tool I put in place um, to keep me from sharing it. Because actually fixing the technical things that needed to be resolved didn't take that long and they weren't that hard. I just made them in my head, I made them bigger and harder to resolve than they were because I was just not ready to share it. So that was interesting that I encountered that. And I didn't actually write something and share on a more broader to a broader audience about the podcast until just this week. Just a couple of days ago I finally shared it with a broader group of people on my personal social media page. So that surprised me. That was an interesting part of the journey that I didn't anticipate. So if anybody is listening and that sounds familiar, I just thought I would share that because I needed to learn about that. So, uh, the experience of doing this podcast, like I said, I love the conversation and I enjoy talking to people and interviewing people, but I also struggled a little bit, and thankfully Brian, again, my producer Brian, helped me get out of my own head. I I was very self-critical, did I say that weird? Did I say that weirdly? See, I worry about that I'm going to stumble and my words won't make sense and I won't be as articulate as the people I'm interviewing. Um, and it's a vulnerable place. As an actor, I'm great if somebody gives me a script and I'm using the words of other people. I can jump into a character and memorize lines, and I can do that. And I'm a singer. I don't mind singing in front of an audience. I'll get up and sing in front of an audience any day because I'm comfortable with that part of my voice, but those are somebody else's words. I'm not being me in a weird way. So I do struggle with that. And that was another part of the Eleni interview that she discussed that she sees, especially for women. Uh, a lot of her clients, they so badly want to be perfect. And we get stuck in the thinking and the preparing stages because we don't want to screw up. And that was something that I also discovered I was struggling with. You know, did I say it right? Does that sound okay? And of course, Brian, we were like, yeah, it sounded fine. But of course, that little, that little critical voice reared its ugly head a couple of times. So, you know, done is better than perfect, right? That's something I'm trying to lean into a little bit. Done is better than perfect. Um, and the gifts are in the imperfections, as Brene Brown would say. Um, so it's been an interesting few weeks. It's been really gratifying for the things that I have been able to overcome. Yes, I built the website. That's something that I was learning, and I discovered my ability to do some of that and learn the technology, and I taught myself a lot of stuff. So that was really gratifying. So if you're listening out there and you're wondering if you have the ability to jump in and learn something or take a risk or try something new, uh, I will say, even though I had to overcome some of my own anxieties through this process, I I cannot tell you how much I would encourage you to jump in and work through the awkward parts because it is vulnerable. And sometimes we don't know if we can learn a new thing, and it's scary to put yourself out there. And it's worth it. That's what I will say. It's been worth it. It's a little scary and it continues to be intimidating. But you know what? We learn. We do learn, and things get easier. Uh, and it's okay not to be perfect. Uh, I say to myself over and over again and hope I start to believe it. It's hard. It's hard putting yourself out there. And I do struggle with that. I have a lot of fear that I'll sound foolish or not use the right vocabulary. And I struggle with that part sometimes. So this journey, if you're listening, it's a vulnerable one. It is a vulnerable place for me. Uh, Not that I don't love conversation, but I have to work through the fear of sounding foolish. So yeah, that's just a couple of the things that I encountered the last few weeks that I thought were was interesting, and I wanted to share because maybe it will resonate with other people, and um, I encourage you to work through it and take it one step at a time, put one foot in front of the other, and remember to breathe. I've had to remember to breathe. And I've also had, you know, some wonderful conversation with friends during the last couple of weeks, sharing my vulnerabilities, and I've had a wonderful support system, and I'm so grateful for the people in my life who've been supporting me through this journey. I envisioned this and I imagined this concept for this project, for a few years actually, but the last several months is when it sort of came together as a podcast. And I'm just really grateful for the people who've come into my life, like Brian, my producer, who've helped me get it to the place it is. And my first two guests, Eleni and Marianne, thank you, thank you, thank you, because you got it going for me. You got me to get out of my head and do. And Eleni, thank you for your book. If you haven't gotten Eleni's book, I encourage it because there were a lot of parts of that book that I was like, oh, call me on my shit right there. That's me. I saw myself in it. And thank you, Marianne Alder, for kicking my ass and putting that first interview on the calendar. And thanks to everybody who's been listening so far. It's an interesting journey, and I don't know how it's all going to unfold. I imagine it's going to evolve and change a lot as we go along, and I'm just going to allow it to unfold and stop trying to control the result. Note to self, let go of perfection. Let go of understanding you're not going to know how this is going to happen, what's going to happen until it happens. Vulnerable place. So thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. There'll be more interviews to come. And until next time, may I just say to all of you listening, breathe. Remember to breathe. Be kind to each other. Lean into the kindness because the world needs kindness right now from all of us. So just be kind to each other. That's it. Until next time. There's More to Our Story podcast was created by me, Alica Gallagher, your host, is produced by Brian Richards. Theme music is by Andy Littlewood. And until next time, please follow the podcast wherever you choose to listen.